Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, Rodrigo.
Hey, Misbah.
This is super exciting. Always so much fun to go live with you, Rodrigo. So, today we've got an action packed session. We've got over 400 people who registered, Rodrigo. So,
Wow.
there's a huge crowd, and a lot of folks over here already joined. Some are joining. We see that there is action happening in the chat already. So this is great.
Amazing. Amazing. So many people joining. Over 400. Wow. Okay. And a lot of people joining right now. So thanks everyone for
Yeah.
joining. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, look at that. We've got from all around the world. So we've got people joining from Germany, India, from Washington, so in the US, from Canada, from Italy. Wow, look at that. Singapore, Kazakhstan. Wow. I think probably we have every representative from all countries around the world. So this is amazing. Super
Wow.
exciting. Thank you all again for joining and making this special. So we've got a lot of things to talk about, and it's quite exciting. So we're going to talk about Langflow version 1.1 and the changes that happen and all the exciting new features that came through that version. We have a new interface which looks beautiful, and we're going to walk through some of the features as well as the interface changes. In addition to that, we'll talk about agents. Rodrigo is going to walk us through a blog post that Rodrigo posted recently, and also about the agents. So, how you can use agents in your workflow, how you can build applications with that. And after that, I'm going to cover about agentic RAG, so how you can build a RAG, but a little bit of change where you're going to use agents for this RAG applications. So, how does that sound, Rodrigo?
Amazing. Great. And let's try to build something live with everyone together, right?
That's a great idea. Let's do that. So, Rodrigo, let's get started. Well, actually, maybe 1 minute before we get started. So, people who are joining first time on this platform, you're going to notice a little bit of change in how things work. So, on the right side, you have Q&A. So, if you have any questions, you can post there. You can also ask on the main chat, but many times it gets buried in the stream of chat that's happening. So it's recommended to post in the Q&A. There might be some polls that you probably are going to see, so you could use that for the polling, and also there might be a few links that we'll share that you can click while you are on this main screen, so you can go to those links. That's pretty much it that we're going to be using about the platform. If there are any questions, again, feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll try to answer as they come. Awesome. So, Rodrigo, about this new version release, it's exciting. There's a lot of discussion, and a lot of folks are sharing what they're building. Maybe a quick overview of what all is new and what are the things that are exciting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can go over all the features. And before we do that, let me ask here in the chat, let us know if you already tried Langflow 1.1, right? Langflow 1.1 was the latest release that we pulled out, right? We're already on Langflow 1.1.1, right? So one minor tweak after the major release. And I would dare to say that this is probably the biggest release we ever done, bigger than 1.0, right? Why? It's because it was the first release after the acquisition where we put everything that we wanted to put together, and now it's just a matter of polishing the edges, right? We have the first version of Langflow where Langflow looks, feels, and starts to be what we intended to be a long time ago with myself and Gabriel, right? So very proud of it. I worked from a lot of different teams together. There was a huge change in UX. There was a huge change in how agents behave and so on. So before we start talking about maybe each one of the features, I'd like to tell you, Ms. a little bit about why we did that, like why we changed what we changed. So many of these little new features and where we're going exactly, right? So what's our goal with all this, right? And I think before I share my screen, I'm going to share it, and we can go over the blog, we can go over some of the demos, etc. But before that, just wanted to talk a little bit about what we feel from this market and how the market is changing, and why we did these changes. And I think it all starts with the fact that Gen AI development is different, right? It's different from traditional software. It's inherently different from how we develop traditional software, right? And we can attribute that to a number of factors, like, for example, that language models are probabilistic, or that you cannot control exactly how they're going to behave, etc. But I think in the end, it comes down to one factor that makes it all happen, which is the language models and any other models, very large models for that sake, are still a black box, right? So we have this system where you are developing, you want to create your app, but the main piece of your software cannot be opened up and inspected, and you cannot move pieces inside of it, right? Like you do with traditional software. You have a bug in your software, you open the function that is giving you the bug, and you change that function, right? In Gen AI development, you're sort of, hey, I need to change the inputs to see if the output is going to come different, right? So basically, we are sort of limited in what we can see and tweak. And because of that, what we're doing instead is we are adapting inputs and tweaking the inputs and trying to and hoping to see something different in the output. And because of that, we need a lot of visibility and control and ways that in real time you are sort of inspecting what's going on and very, very proactively prototyping, right? So I think that's the major driver for these changes that we're making. And one of the big features that emerged from this like control, a language model control that we see emerging and becoming the state of the art is multi-agents, right? There's a reason why you don't want a single agent doing everything. It's because that agent is going to commit a lot of mistakes, right? It's going to do a lot of stuff that you don't want, and maybe you want to control steps in between agent calls, right? And that's sort of where we're going. So what we're doing right now is we're positioning Langflow as an agentic first platform. We're focusing on agents more than anything else, right? That's number one. And second, we are messing with the environment and the ecosystem around the agent capabilities so that we have this entire powerful set of features that will enable these agents to become so powerful, right? And so let me share my screen and go over a little bit of what I'm talking about, and then we can play with Langflow as well. So can you see my screen, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the release article, right? If you want to go through, I think we have this link shared. Basically, it's talking a little bit about Langflow 1.1, right? And I think we can boil down the new features into a couple of categories, starting with the new look and feel, right? Langflow has completely redesigned a user interface, and that is a lot of work from our UX team. And because of that, we even have we have a rebranding. We have a new way that you're going to use components, a new way on how edges and handles work. Everything in Langflow looks different. So if you haven't tried 1.1 yet, please do, right? I hope you're going to enjoy that, and feel free to give feedback as well. But we have an article over here. This is from our UX team. This is Simon and Jonathan. These guys are superstars, and they're talking a little bit about the new Langflow and how the brand changed, why this kind of stuff went to the way they went, and so on. So check it out. It is super cool, like the branding and the reasoning behind this kind of stuff. I love that, at least. And it makes the entire experience easier for the starter user, right? Our goal here is to simplify how these applications are developed and the prototyping and so on. So first thing, entire new visual, right? The second one is the new agent object, right? The new agent component, right? And we are going to use this a lot today. New agent component has a couple of features. One, it has an inbuilt model selection. Second, it has memory by itself, so it knows the context of the chat by itself. Third, it has a way that you can plug tools and the agent instructions over there. And fourth, most important, it tracks intermediate steps, meaning whatever you're doing with this agent, it is calling tools, it is reasoning, it's going to show this behavior in the playground itself, right? You have full control of what is going on with the behavior of the agent. And to support that new agent component, we introduced a new feature that is, in my opinion, the most powerful feature in Langflow 1.1, which is the tool mode, right? Now, every component in Langflow can become a tool. That means, okay, I have this URL component in my screen, and it's, if you ever use the URL, it brings you like a text of the data extracted from a link, right? And what you can do here is you can convert that into a tool with a click of a button. And from now on, the agent will control that if you plug it into the agent. And it's not only a tool, because a component can have multiple outputs. So it becomes a tool set that your agent can now use. And what can be controlled through the agent, how your tools are going to behave, what are going to be the description, this is all coming in a better way, like so that the agent you have full control of. For example, let's say in this case here, you have the URL being controlled by the agent, but the output format is still a human input, right? So you can decide what you want to control and what you want to leave control to the agent. And that's what we're talking about when we say we just want to give a little bit of free will to these agents, right? We decide what the agents can do and what the agents cannot do, and in a very simple and practical way, right? That's the goal here. So this is a tool mode. It's already available in a lot of the components. All of the components in Langflow, or at least all the components where this makes sense, will have this toggle, right? So you see like more and more components having this toggle from now on, but this can also be configured through the code. So you can customize your own code component, and you can add tool mode to the parameters that you feel would make sense over there, right? So from now on, you create your own component, code that component, convert that component into a tool with a click of a button. And in the code, that's one line of code, even less than that. So we can show that through the demos.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point, and that feature I've been using a lot, Rodrigo. Using any component as tool, and there's also a question, Rodrigo, if that's fine about that. So the question from Pavan is, the tool mode. So you covered that. How did the idea develop, and was there any help from any LM for building or developing this? So I think in general about the whole concept of building this tool mode, and how did that develop?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the overall idea comes from the fact that if we are making a truly agentic platform, that means everything need to be agentic, right? If whatever components you have in a Langflow, you want them to be controllable by the agents, right? And we know there are ways in other platforms and libraries that you can set that up. You can configure a function. You say take Crew AI, LangChain, or all the others that where you're using code. You can code that, right? That takes a while for you to get there. And this is sort of a pain when you say, yeah, I want to make something a tool for my agent to control. You cannot do that in 5 seconds, right? For sure. The idea here was sort of that, like what would be the easiest way where I can convert anything in Langflow into a tool, right? And that was, and make it very clear to everyone, right? Because the tool mode in the end is a parameter like every other parameter, but we wanted to make it stand out. So that's why you're gonna see a different color in the bottom of the component. You're gonna see a different way that the component behaves when you change the tool mode. We wanted to make it like pop up and stand out in a way that everyone understands that component is not anymore behaving like it behaved before, right? It's now made for agents, and it's very clear cut here that, well, something changed, right? And that's sort of the idea. And another, like, I think this derives from the same question, which is another need for the tool mode came from the fact that we wanted to use agents as tools, right? Because if you think, well, I can convert any component into a tool, that also means I can convert an agent into a tool, right? And that's exactly what we did. We said, why don't we create a way to orchestrate agents where one agent is going to call the others exactly like if they were tools, right? The agent is going to control their tools in the tool mode. Okay, all good. We know that. But let's say I want to have like 5 or 6 different agents that are going to be orchestrated through another component, right? And that's exactly what we're doing here. We are adding the capability that an orchestrator is going to decide how these agents behave just by toggling the tool mode on, right? And on these agents. So, and that's recursive, because you can think about, well, you can think about an agent that reads pages of books, another one reads paragraph, another one reads chooses the book, another one chooses the corpus, another one chooses the corpora. I don't know. And you can go completely like recursive on the number of levels you want. So agent calls another agent that calls another agent that calls another agent, and then all of these can become a pipeline of tools calling other tools. The other list of pipelines could be actions, like it selects the API to be used. Another one is going to select the fields for that API and the body, and etc. So the limits over here with this get very, very like discrete from this point on, right? We have something that allows you to build from single agents to multi-agents in seconds, in a way that I don't think there is a platform out there doing it in this way, right? As simple and straightforward as we're trying to put it. And this is just, I think this is just the beginning, just the tip of the iceberg, because this enabled so many different things that we are adding right now, and it's so impressive. And when I use it, I'm personally like impressed with some of the features that we are deriving from these functionalities, right? So I think that's a little bit of the intention. Yeah, go ahead.
No, totally agreed. I've been playing with agents, and especially, you drop in one agent component, say that it's a supervisor, orchestrator, whatever, right? So as you showed on the screen, that was also a component, right? So you just drag and drop agent component, give it a name, give some good description, and then, attach with it tools or additional agents. So there's just so much flexibility with that. And I think to that, Rodrigo, there's a question from David. So I'm going to bring that up on the stage. It's about agents. Is it true that an agent can choose among multiple tools, but in the end picks only one tool that they consider best fit, or how does it work with the new setup?
Okay, so let me see if I understand the question, because you said, so you're going to plug a lot of tools into an agent, right? And then when you're talking to the agent, you want it to recognize when it must use a tool, one or another tool, right? I think maybe the question is, can the agent just use one of the tools? I think if that's the question, I'd say no. The agent can use multiple, and they can even use multiple in sequence, right? So for example, calculate the age of, that's the typical example that we used long time ago. I don't know if it was from Llama Index or LangChain, but calculate the age of Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriend, right? So it needs to, one, access a tool to go into Google and extract the name of the girlfriend, right? And then it needs to go into Google again, or Bing, whatever search you want to use, and extract the age of that girl, right? And third, you need to compute, and third, you need to oh, okay, I think it was something like calculate the age of Leo DiCaprio's girlfriend divided by something. I think that was that. And then you need to use the calculator to do the final sum or something like that. So basically, yes, the agent can use multiple in sequence, right? Agent is going to take your input and break that down into what should I do, what are the tools I need to use, and this breakdown process can be designed by you as well, because you have control of the agent instructions, etc. So you can tell the agent how to break down tasks, how to reason, for example, etc. And that's sort of important, a step important for you to start to understanding and feel like these agents are going to behave depending on the agent instructions that you provide.
Yeah, definitely. I think just to add a little bit to that, Rodrigo, I would say that, in terms of definition of how the agents are set up, one just needs to make sure that they're described properly. And then, in theory, you want agents to pick the right tool one at a time. And that even if they're doing sequential, they want to, go one at a time. So if you're tracing, you want to see what was used, and you can go back and check that, right? So if that's the question, David, hopefully we answer the question. And I don't think in parallel
Yeah.
picking off tool is an option, because I think it would probably not work, because sequential is where you would see that, okay, it used it, let's say, for example, search tool, then it found out about the person, then it found out about the place of birth, or anything that from there. So that's where you could attach multiple tools, and you'll see that it will pick the right tool for you. Yeah, Rodrigo, let's keep going.
Exactly. So now moving on to the features so you have this agent right now, and how can we make the interactivity better? The first step towards that was improving the playground, right? And the playground in Langflow is the place where you're going to chat with your application. You define an application, you put together the blocks of your flow, and now you're going to start interacting, right? And we have a lot of like new improvements to this playground, starting with the collapsible elements. So if you have an agent message, for example, you're now going to see what's going on behind the scenes. You can open that up, you can control that, you can understand the tools that were used, and the parameters that the agent sent to those tools, right? Then we have also conversation sessions, right? So now you can add multiple sessions of conversation. You're going to see that in the demo, and editable messages as well. Editable messages mean, let's say you're talking to your agent like for a while, and you want to change something in a previous message to see how the agent would have behaved if the message was different, right? So this is the kind of adjustment that you can do right now. Everything in favor of inspecting better, visualizing better, and testing, right? And then there's lots and lots of templates that we can show right now. I think I'd say this, but we just jump into Langflow and start using it. What you say?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
Okay,
So
cool.
there are many questions popping up, but I think we'll answer as we go through them, Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Also, maybe before we go into that, Rodrigo, I'm always curious to learn a little bit, from your personal experience as well. So you and Gabriel, you started Langflow, and I'm sure it's been an exciting journey. Want to know, what are the use cases that you have seen people are building on, and in the previous version now. There are many different institutions, organizations, that you're working with. It's always one of those things people ask, what can we build with that? So just a few things that you could share.
Yeah, I think it comes down to three different categories of use cases that we see out there being the top categories of language model usage, right? Number one are these pipelines, this sequence of models chained, right? Basically, you want to have a pipeline or a basic workflow, and in the middle of your workflow you need language models or other types of models as well connected, right? And you want to automate something. So let's say I want to automate a process in my company, or automate the way that something happens when a webhook is triggered, email got into my mailbox, etc. So this kind of app, right? Automations where there are LLMs in the middle of the workflow or pipeline, right? This case number one. Case number two would be the RAG overall. So Q&A, right? Question answering. You have a documentation and you want to answer questions about that documentation. You have a code base and you want to answer questions about that code base. Same thing for books or documents, legal stuff. You take marketing stuff, blogs, and so on. So answering questions about something became one of the top kinds of applications for LLMs. And the third one is agents, right? So when you talk about agents, I'm thinking about an application, an assistant, right? It's a chatbot with extra functionality. It answers questions, but it also performs actions. Like it accesses APIs, it calls endpoints. It's going to, let's say there is a finance assistant that will buy stocks for you, right? Very dangerous, watch out. And like customer support, you want the agent to answer the customer, but also access its account. So put some password in a web page and access something, extract information, and put information as well. So these agents will be, in my opinion, the most complex use cases. And because of this complexity, when I think about agents, Misbah, and this is something that I think myself and Gabriel, we do a lot. We try to coarse grain the actions from these agents into smaller actions so that you can track what's going on in these like small functions. Instead of having one agent or two agents doing everything for you, you try to control more. You try to break down the tasks into little granular functionalities, right? And for each one of these functionalities, you may add some rules and some like human in the loop, etc. Right? So you want to make sure that you're mixing a little bit of your pre-knowledge with the agent's capabilities. Otherwise, you're just going to give too much freedom to the agents. Right? Does that answer a little bit of the question?
No, definitely. I mean, it's always exciting to see, all of these use cases. People share a lot about their use cases on social media as well, on the Discord server. So with that, maybe a quick action for folks as well. If you're not on the Discord server, you might want to join. There's a lot of action happening. All of our socials, we try to post and reshare about, these use cases. So please do follow those social handles. Rodrigo, back to you. Let's dive into the live demo.
Okay, so before I jump into so this is Langflow 1.1, and before we start looking at it, just remember that this is available through our GitHub repo, but also through DataStax Langflow, right? So you can use our cloud version for free. If you want to log in and start right now, just go and do that. Here is an article by Preeti on the new features and everything that is available through the cloud version. So take a look as well. Right. I don't know if you have the link, Michelle. I can hand it over to Misbah after this so that we can share it with everyone. But head towards datastax.com and create your account and start using Langflow for free. So this is the new Langflow, right? You already see a new design, a new way that you're going to see your projects, etc. We have a new logo, right? And also right now you can see like immediately some stuff that weren't here. First of them is the modes, right? You have dark and light, and you have system mode as well. I prefer dark, so just configure the way you want. You have more clarity into what you can do over here, right? You create folders, you can export or import folders, export and import projects, etc. Right? And when you start a new flow, let me open it up. You're gonna see these templates, and we have three very basic ones for people that want to start with each one of the categories that we think are most important. And these correlate a lot with the categories that we just spoke about, Misbah. Prompting or workflows, prompt chaining, etc. Right? Then RAG, everything related to RAG. We have an example, a nice example using AstroDB, and then agents, which are the sort of the cherry of this release. And then we have a lot of use cases as well for you over here that you can start tweaking and understanding, etc. So explore these, classification, coding. In the next months, our plan is to populate this with a lot of use cases, right? So get ready. But if you start looking at these, you're going to see a lot of patterns by the Langflow experts, and they created these like using the strategies that they have in mind, and they are using these to create real apps, and they sent some to us. We adapted them and converted them into templates, right? So if you look something like, let's see, there's an image sentiment analysis, right? You're gonna see that there's something called the structured output, right? This wasn't here in the previous version. So what is it, right? Check it out, start to try to understand, and I think you're gonna love a lot of them. And whatever you don't like, remember to send us feedback, and we're trying to improve this every month. So a lot of templates. Let me start with one of them, and actually let me start from scratch, and we can create an agent together. Misbah, what you say?
Yeah, love the idea. And also, we're just popping the link to the free version, so you can just click on that link and follow along if you like with Rodrigo, or you can, follow along the recording after the session is completed. Go ahead, Rodrigo.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to go through an example of how you can create your flow, an agentic flow, let's say, and show some of these functionalities, right? And then I know that Misbah has a nice example to show you all as well. And then I'm gonna hand it over to Misbah to show some more. Right, so let's start with a chat input. To start your flow, always start with a chat input output so that you can enable the playground. Right, chat input, chat output. Here I am, and now let me place an agent. You can search for your agent over here, and you're gonna find these categories. And by the way, sidebar completely revamped. You're gonna see bundles now, right? So other integrations, everything that you want, they're over here. And to start with the agent, what I'm gonna do is so you have a preset instructions here. I think these are enough. So you are a helpful assistant that can use tools to answer questions. Great, okay. So let me plug the input into the agent input and the response into the chat output, right? Now, we need tools, right? So that this agent use something nice. If you don't pass any tools, it comes with a default tool, which is the date and time, right? So basically, let's use the calculator here. And let's start with the simplest example ever, right? So calculator, let's come to the playground, and fingers crossed, this is the main version, and hopefully the demo curse won't get us. So, hey, how are you doing? Let's see if it just answers me first, right? And that's running. Da-da-da. Okay, I'm just a programmer. I don't have feelings. Great. So let me ask this. Can you divide, and let's try a very big number, by, let's see. Executed calculation. Yeah, go ahead.
Rodrigo, while we are showing the agents, sorry, there's also a question about chat memory. How does that work? So maybe if you want to quickly talk about the memory as well, in this, the playground, as well as, if one were to attach external memories.
Yeah, I'm going to show that. Okay, cool. So basically what I asked was, can you divide this big number by that big number? Because some people say, oh, but LLMs know how to do math, right? But not really. Try big numbers and you're going to see it doesn't know anything. So what it did was it executed. You're going to see this this card where you can click and see the intermediate steps. And it executed the calculator with an input that says this divided by that, right? And the output, it shows you the output, right? The result is over here. And then it took this and gave me a very nice, straightforward answer, right? So super cool. What we're adding now to this agent is streaming, right? You're going to notice that the agent in this version doesn't have streaming yet. So it's going to wait a little bit. So it sends the entire answer. It won't send it token by token. Okay, but yeah, so I'm going to go back to the memory question. Let me just show you something else first. Say that, right, I want to use another tool. So in this case, I'm going to do the URL, right? URL fetches content from one or more URLs. Okay, cool. Let me try to use this as the tool mode. And the URL now is going to be a parameter for the agent to feed. I'm going to plug the URL. And let me ask it another question. Now, give me the summary of, take a website, Apple's website today. That's it. URL. So it executed URL, fetch content text. You see, it's using the proper tool. And there you go. Gave me a summary of what's in the Apple's website. And now you already notice how you can extrapolate that if you have more and more tools, or if you even create your own tools, right? And you asked me about the memory, what's going on with memory here. So first thing that you're going to notice is the agent, whenever it sends a message, it sees the memory over here, right? Human said this, AI said that, and so on. but you can inspect the message history, entire message history in the session. So if you click these three dots over here, you're going to find the message logs, and you can go over and understand what's going on, right? So a lot of stuff that you can monitor from here, but also, so this is inbuilt message history from the agent. But you can also have components that grab the message history if you want to do something with this. So for example, this is the message history component. I'm going to play it, right? And I can inspect the output of this guy looking at it. So user, so text, let's open this up. And you're going to see, hey, how are you doing? Da, 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 right? So this is the entire message history that you can use for different purposes. Let's say, for example, you want to tweak a prompt based on the previous history, right? Or filter this message history and do something cool with it with another model, I don't know, or another agent, right? You just be creative and do whatever you want with it. So that's message history. Also, if you want to store messages in a specific way, let's say you have a model and you want to store a modified version of a message or something, you have the store message component, right? So you can plug this over here, and that's going to be stored. And say you want to have multiple message histories, right? You can specify a session ID like second memory, right? And once you close it, you're going to have another message history, right? So you can configure agents that will, for example, remember some stuff in one memory set and some other stuff. Let's say your personal stuff, it's remembering in one of the message history IDs, and the other one, like your professional stuff, it remembers in another memory for whatever reason you can imagine, right? So this is very, very flexible, and you can build like almost anything with this kind of thing. Cool, Misbah. So let me just show you the last one before I hand it over so that Misbah can show you his nice demo. And this is, I'm going to show you how you can create your own tool here, right? This is a custom component. If you click down in the plus new custom component, you can code your own component, right? And what it means is click on the code button over here, and you're going to find that every component in Langflow is Python code, nothing else. It's a class with Python code, right? So there are some protocols and a schema that you need to follow. Just look at the documentation for this. It's simpler than it looks, right? And we have a lot of AIs to help you build this kind of component. But in the end, this function, what it's doing is basically it's outputting exactly the same thing as the input, right? And I want to change this. I want to rename this. I want to create a component that will count chars, right? You following this, Misbah?
Yep.
Counts the number of chars in a string. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is instead of returning the input, I'm going to return the length of the input. Right? So I basically created let me remove this to show you. I basically created a component that will count the number of chars. Let me play it. So hello world. The output is going to be 13, right? Cool. So it's basically counting the number of chars in a string. Now, if I say I want to use this guy as a tool, what I need to do is I come to the input that I want to be controllable by the agent, and I add tool mode equals true. Okay. Once I do that, it's going to have this nice toggle that you already know, right? So it can be controlled by the agent. So let's try something, and this is going to be okay. So it just summarized Apple's website. Okay, now count the number of chars there. Hopefully,
wow.
That's it. See, we don't know.
I love how easy it is to set up all of this, right? So just define something, use it as a tool. Wow, look at that.
you see, like, so it basically it accessed, and because I didn't rename my component, it's still called custom component, right? But it basically passed the input value with the Apple website, and it gave me the value, the count, which is the number of chars in that. So wow. There you go. Create from 0 to a complete, fully fledged agent with your own components, right?
This is
There,
super cool. It's
yeah.
really cool because I don't think that, I mean, I might be biased, but I just feel this is the best platform right now. If you're building with agents, you just drag and drop that agent block, and look at that. So many tools. Just attach a tool, a quick change in the description, short change. I mean, there's not much described, and then the agent is now able to use that tool. Really nice. Love it.
And so
So.
before I hand it over to your demo, Misbah, let me just answer this question from Patrick, and he's asking, how can we create an agent with many sub agents? Right? I'm not going to do that right now. It might take more time than we have here. But what I will do is basically say I want to create, say I want to make this entire guy here. I want to make him want to make it a tool, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tool mode it, right? And let me clone this guy. And now I'm gonna have another agent that can accept this as a tool, right? And let's say I have others below here that could have completely different tools, right, that I can use. Instead of, well, maybe instead of having the calculator, I'm going to have a database, a vector store as a tool, like my AstroDB as a tool. So this one does the calculations, etc. This one below is going to access a database and retrieve information. So I'm going to plug it over there. And here, I need to give a description enough so that it knows, like, well, you have access to these guys, like these tools. Try to use this when that happens, etc. For example, one thing that I do a lot is I like to set commands to my agents. So for example, whenever I say /HTML, use that tool. Or whenever I say / something else, and it tends to work much better than I expected, right? So a hint for you to try out. But to create multiple agents, that would be the way, right? You just would convert the agents into tool mode and move on with your life, like as if they were tools. In reality, when the agent is called by the first agent, this one behaves like an agent itself, right? But for this agent, it is a tool, right? So you can do like recursive and hierarchical approach for multi-agent orchestration.
Awesome. A couple more questions, maybe Rodrigo, we can quickly answer them. So one of the question is that is this HIPAA compliant? So using Langflow. So maybe I can quickly answer. So if you're running in a setup which is HIPAA compliant, so Langflow is open source. If you're running locally, you can have your local instance as well as you can have local LLM using Olama or different tools available. So it is going to be HIPAA compliant. Or if you have a HIPAA compliant cloud setup, then you can deploy it there. It's quite flexible. So it's just a few short commands, and then you can have Langflow running over there. Another question, Rodrigo, can we export the entire workflow?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, let me share again then. I'm gonna leave some space. We just have 15 minutes, Ms. Buzz, so I don't know how much you're gonna need for your demo. So to answer these questions, number one, you can export your flow by coming over here, and you can export it as a JSON file, right? So first way that you're gonna export it, right? Why it's cool? Because you can share with everyone, and second, because you can load it from a Python environment, right? So if you have Langflow installed in your environment, you're just gonna do something like langflow.load from JSON, something like that, right? And you can load the flow in Python and continue from there. If you come to the API session as well, you see a lot of ways that you can take your flow from the UI to production, right? So how can I take this to Python code? Use the API over here. The place where you're hosting the flow can become a source for you to access it through an API call, right? And there you go. I saw a question about Crew AI as well. Crew AI is still here, right? So if you want to use the Crew AI components, the agents, etc., they are all here, right? So we didn't change anything about that. The only thing we did is we added our own core native, let's say, agent component, right? It has more features that are better integrated with our playground, etc. But that doesn't eliminate the use cases for crew AI and other integrations. Like there are a lot of stuff that you can do with hierarchical crew, or the other one, like the sequential crews, that you can do with crew AI, right? So cool stuff. You can use the same tools. So if you create a custom tool for Langflow for on your component, you can also use it with crew AI agents, for example. So try it out and send us your experience. I think that would be a nice thing to check after 1.1, like how the experience with crew AI looks like. But thanks for the question.
Awesome. I think that also answers the question from David, that can we force the agent to go in a sequential order of using tools? So one could use something like, sequential crew with from crew AI, or if you have a prompt that, instructs saying that, always use this tool first and then the next one, that could also work using the agent component.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and you know what? Let me finish that question with something cool as well. Look at this. Uh, let's say you have a let me find a tool here. Well, let's say this calculator, right? You see that in this case, it's going to become silly, but imagine that you want to have a sequence of steps happening as a tool, right? What you can do is, if your final component can be converted into a tool, you can plug other components into it, right? So let me show you here. Let's say I'm going to do an API request, and the API request will go through, I don't know, parse data or something, sequence of steps, right? And this thing will go to the expression of the calculator, right? And this calculator will become tool mode and will be plugged over here. In this case, you would have a tool performing, instead of just running the last component, since the last component runs the other ones in a sequence, right? It's going to run everything, right? So you can create components that are tool mode that access like an entire flow, for example, right? So your tool can be an entire flow.
That's actually a very good example. I didn't think about that before, Rodrigo. So thanks for sharing. Awesome.
There you go.
So I hope that answers the question from David. I'll quickly walk through it, just a few things, maybe 5 minutes or so, Rodrigo, and then there are a lot of questions, so we'll try to answer all of the questions. So yeah, I mean, there was a question about agent-based RAG, and that's something I wanted to showcase how easy it is to build an agent-based RAG application in Langflow. So what I'm doing over here, so hopefully you can see my screen, Rodrigo.
Mhm.
um, Basically, I took a template, and as Rodrigo showed earlier, if you were to just start from scratch and you start a new flow, you'll see this vector store rag template, and that template. Well, let me just click through and just maybe we can walk through that. There are two different steps happening here. One is where you ingest your data. So if you have a PDF or you have a code base or any knowledge base that you want to ingest and save that, you can add that as a first component. So right now we just have one file. It could be more than that. So there are many different data types that could be ingested. I would highly recommend for you to kind of explore in the sidebar here. So let's say we do that. We save that in a vector store. So any typical drag application. Now, the template over here says, okay, this is the typical RAG application where if you ask a question, then we pull the context from the vector store and then answer based on that. So if you were to look at the prompt available here to the large language model, we're saying that, given the context above, this is the search result from the vector database, provide an answer. So it's going to do the best to answer based on that. And then now in this case, there are some chances that it might try to formulate an answer based on some of the context which might not be as relevant. But then if you want to improve that, one of the techniques, so this is something that became quite popular recently, is the agent-based RAG. So in that, what we're going to do is we'll just swap the top portion. So the bottom portion where we're ingesting data remains the same. In the top portion, we bring in an agent component, as Rodrigo showed, and then we give some instructions. And the instructions over here, I mean, you could write very simple instructions, or you can enhance them. So there are tools out there by Anthropic where you can enhance the prompt. That's what I did. There's something by Cohere as well, and many providers offer that. So you just initially say that, okay, my goal is to build agent-based RAG application, and help me make a prompt. So it gave me this prompt here. So the goal here is to let agent know that it has access to this retriever tool, and this component is available in Langflow. So you can just look for that as if you were to search. So it's going to be in the tool section, and then you attach the vector store. So in this case, I made a free account with Astra DB, and then I said, okay, the database name is Langflow, and then I can select a collection, whatever is the collection, and then based on that, now if I were to ask a question to the agent, it's going to know that it has this tool available for a RAG-based application. So now I can say that, this particular context is for a document which is on science, right, or physics, or you can describe even further saying that, okay, this is about a particular topic or so. So anytime there is a need to use that tool, now your agent knows it and it can use that. And if, going beyond that, now you think, you know what, I want a tool that even searches internet and generates response based on either the vector search or the result that we get from the internet search. It's quite easy. Basically, I'm just pulling one of the tools available here in search, and then I'm bringing that over, attaching it, and that's basically it. No changes. So there's a description available in the tool itself, which is letting the agent know that this is the particular use case that we can use the tool for. And if it is for retrieval, then there is a description for that tool, and that's it. No further changes needed. And just I'm saying, in the description here, or the kind of the prompt for the agent, that you have these two tools available now instead of just one tool. So you can use the other tool as well for search application, and then the agent knows. And then if we run or ask questions, then we get response based on that. So I ran a few different questions through this, and it knows that, okay, if I were to ask about the Summer Olympics, and it knows what to search for. So it's going to go find some results based on that topic and then generate a response for us. Or if I were to ask about the document, then it goes through the search result and then pull that from the vector database and show us that response. So the flexibility here is really nice. Just a few changes in the prompt to the agent, and that's basically it. So yeah, I think hopefully that answers the question to agent-based RAG. And I just wanted to keep it short so you can build yourself. And again, something I wanted to show is also, if you have a front-end UI, so this is a question we get quite often, how do we connect this with a UI? So as Rodrigo showed, one of the options available here is to use the API. So you can call this website. So right now, again, this instance is on Astra Data Stacks. I can call this URL with the token and the parameters that you can get from the flow, and then connect it. And based on that, you can now build your front-end UI, and you have a working agent-based RAG application that you can showcase to the world. Awesome. So yeah, back to you, Rodrigo. Any question that we can quickly go through in the 5 minutes that we have?
Very cool, Misbah. Thanks for the demo. I'm gonna add a comment there that you use the retriever tool, right? And just so that everyone knows that's probably gonna be deprecated as well, because very soon we'll have every one of the vector stores as a tool mode as well. Right? So a vector store will be tool mode. Everything will be tool mode. Right? Remember that. So for now, we need to keep the retriever, just because it's in process of, like, we are updating components day to day, right? But very soon you're gonna see that unnecessary already, right? Which is, in my opinion, is a progress. We're reducing the number of components to build something in a smooth way. So let me answer some of the questions that I see here. Ocean asked how I would simulate a conversation between two personas that continue until you stop it. For example, a coach and a client. I guess the answer I'm looking for is how I would feed the output back to the first step. In other words, what you're asking is, I would put it as, You want to loop, right? You want the last output to feed the first input, right? And we have a branch for the loop. Loop functionality is something asked for a long, long time. I think we're finally in the process of delivering it. And if I'm optimistic, but if I'm right, we're gonna have it in the next release, right? So looping functionality. Okay, that's I think it comes down to what you need. Luke Vincent says, if I'm building a RAG app for multiple users, how do I set up vector databases to keep documents separate? Do we use key spaces, collections? Which of these would work best with Langflow? So Langflow is the medium so that you can access multiple vector databases, right? And the database that we're using with DataStax is AstraDB. So if you're using AstraDB, the way that you're going to do that is through collections, right? You need to look into more like what kind of granularity you can apply to these AstraDB vector stores so that you can separate better. But just look into the AstraDB documentation. What I've been using so far for all that I've done so far, collections seem to be enough. Then we have another call from Jacob Kovar, and my answer to you, Jacob, is I don't know, right? I don't know how we're going to prevent the agents to be so lazy, right? I think it comes down to the agent architectures, and we are really like at every time that we're looking at the agent architecture and how we're building it behind the scenes. In this case, there's a lot of LangChain still, right? We're trying to improve a little bit how it can behave a little bit faster, right? Tool calling, one of the alternatives that we see today is tool calling by with embeddings, right? So instead of having to read the entire text and reasoning to decide the tool, if we were using something like tool calling, just like an embedding classification system, that could improve. And we're doing experiments about that at this very moment. But still something that like a pain that I also feel. So I'm not probably no big change soon. Can we build components tools with, so this is Sergio, can we build components tools with TypeScript instead of Python? No, unfortunately you can't. The custom components, Langflow has the back end entirely in Python, and to build custom components you need Python. What we're adding though are components that will work as a sandbox for code. So maybe one of these sandboxes will allow TypeScript. Also, I wouldn't say not in the next month, right? Maybe a little bit further in the future. Is there a way to define flows programmatically, like JSON or YAML? Yeah, you can create with JSON, right? If you open up a flow, if you export your flow, you are going to see it's a JSON file. It's just a JSON, right? So if you want to copy that JSON, do something with that, like modify some of the parameters over there, yes, you can. It's very it's messy. It's a lot of JSONs inside a file, and it might give you some trouble, but already available. The good news is that in a future version, Langflow won't need to work with JSONs anymore. We'll work directly from Python code. So you'll be able to export your flow as a script, right? So you can create scripts that become Langflow flows. And then Arthur asks, what AIs can we use to make the custom components? Oh, all right. This is a good question. So we have, number one, we have a GPT. If you go to ChatGPT and look for the custom GPTs over there from the community, there is one called Langflow Custom Component Generator or Langflow Custom Component Builder. Look at that. There are two actually. So community built that. I think one of them is by Gabriel. A little bit outdated. So when I'm going to use it, I tend to copy the entire documentation in the page, Langflow docs custom components, and I paste that into the chat so that it becomes more updated. The second one you have, and that's probably the most reliable source, is one of our templates inside of the coding category is called Custom Component Generator, right? It uses Anthropic to generate custom components for you. So try that out. If you have doubts as well, or if you're interested in improving that, I'm super in favor. I'm myself looking at these things and trying to create the ultimate custom component builder. Hopefully, we're gonna make this amazing. And then I think we're out of time, Misbah. Do you want to take a couple of more questions here?
Yeah. So what I would suggest is perhaps there are a lot being added. So perhaps for the folks who have this question, drop those in Discord server. We have active community there, and a lot of us from the team are also there. Maybe we can take one or two, Rodrigo. But for folks who are about to maybe head to other calls or meetings or so, thanks for them to join. I also wanted to give a shout out to Michelle for handling and doing all of the hard work and putting all of this in place. So it's really nice we're able to make this happen, and also for Scott to getting the word out. So people who are going to drop out, so thanks a lot for joining. We'll take a few more questions before we end the call. Go ahead, Rodrigo.
Yeah, I saw one of the questions asking about a problem using FICE module in Langflow. So every one of the issues that you're reporting here, they're taken as a bug report, right? In our bug report. So don't worry, we're going to look at this offline after the call. We take every one of the comments that you're doing in these live streams. We're collecting them and we're putting them into our pipeline of bug reports or feature requests, etc. It's being addressed. So thanks for that. And then I see about like GraphRag. I think we answered we're gonna have GraphRag soon. Not yet. We have a PR for GraphRag that we're looking into, and inside of DataStax itself, we have Ryan, who is working on an implementation of GraphRag himself. So I sense we're gonna have this very very soon. What else? I think that's it. If you have questions or observations, reach out on the Discord channel. That's all good as well. We're gonna be there. If you have a project or something bigger that you want to kick off with Langflow or Langflow Cloud, reach out directly to us. We can create a Slack connect with you. Very happy to understand the problems that you're trying to solve and help you with them. So appreciate the support by the entire community and everyone that joined over here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodrigo. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And there is a part two to this next week if you have more questions and if you want to learn more. So that's going to be exciting as well. Thank you again. And thanks, Rodrigo. You all have fun and take care. And we'll see you next week. Bye.